who's the baby daddy?
Excuse me? Who is your baby daddy?
Hey guys.
Hey y'all.
So, guess where we're at? The flower wall. So you know when we're here and we're recording,
You already know.
we got some things to address, some things to talk about.
Some situations.
So, I know you guys been wanting to hear about our
Ma'am.
delivery story, our pregnancy story,
Everything.
and we wanted to throw in some things. So we're going to start off with some educational points. Things you should and should not say to pregnant women.
Ooh.
Mind you, prior to pregnancy, I didn't know about it, know things that I should or should not say. And it could be just because I'm rude, because I never thought about it, but I'm pretty sure Jamila already knew things she shouldn't say.
And I think some of it's things you shouldn't say to women anyway.
For example, okay, what's one of the craziest things that you heard someone say to me?
So one thing that I think people don't realize is, to Sequina especially, was commenting on how small she was
Yes.
all the time.
People were like, oh, you're carrying so small. You don't even look pregnant. This, and that. Now, let's pinpoint this. Let's put a little asterisk by this. Because most people are probably thinking, well, like, good. You know, your snatchback is going to be good. But
Right.
asterisk. Remember this. Remember one reason why you should not comment on a person, how big, small, or whatever.
Anything.
You know, just say, hey, you're wearing pregnancy well, or you look beautiful. You're
You look
glowing.
beautiful.
You're glowing. You know, something like that. The belly touching thing.
Oh, people touching you?
Don't automatically assume just because there's a belly out there that you can touch it. Like, be polite and ask, do you mind if I touch it? Really,
You shouldn't be
you
touching
shouldn't be
people you
touching
don't know anyway.
belly anyway. Exactly. So, you know, that was just kind of annoying.
I mean, I understand, like, babies are beautiful and everyone wants to be around babies and pregnant women, but there are still boundaries that can be crossed.
Oh, here's another one. Well, who's the baby daddy?
Excuse me?
And that's another video for another time.
Who is your baby daddy? No, I'm just kidding.
So, what's another thing that was just super rude? Well, yeah, those are just some, I guess those are some little, I feel like I had way more things prior to pressing record, but I guess it's slipping my mind. But what about you? Anything before we move on next?
Those were just my main ones.
Okay. So, and then, you know, you guys were asking for pregnancy updates, bump updates, like typical stuff that YouTube couples do. And there was like a reason why we didn't do that. And I don't think it was rude that you guys were asking, but it's just, you have to understand, like, if we're not doing it, it's a reason. It's not that we're just sitting at home and saying, oh my God, I hate YouTube, I hate that idea, I don't want to do it. So, let's rewind back to October 2017. Jamila and I were like super excited. We had an appointment to go see an ultrasound. So we were finally going to see Harper on the ultrasound. We were going to get a full anatomy scan.
How many weeks were you?
18. It was 18 weeks. So I had already found out the sex because I had did the blood testing when they did the spine bifida and the
What was it, chromosome?
the chromosome and the Down syndrome testing. So we found out. But this one would potentially, had we not did that, we would have determined the sex. So this was going to be a full anatomy scan, which we were super excited. We got in there. I think I shed a tear because like Harper did like a little wave on the ultrasound. But the kicker was the ultrasound tech, like within the ultrasound, started to get real quiet and a little shifty. And she made a comment, I'll never forget. She was like, she's positioned weird. And then, like, you know, she started to make us feel a little uneasy, like there was something wrong. So then after the ultrasound, she was like, you know, your amniotic fluid is...
This is an hour-and-a-half ultrasound.
Right. Your amniotic fluid appears to be a little low. We're going to call your doctor, go wait in the waiting room. Jamila and I wait about 45 minutes. They call the doctor. They put the doctor on the phone, and she was like, just go. You good. You go. You need to go. So apparently, I guess my OBGYN was busy at the time, so she didn't get a chance to review the ultrasound. So the next morning, regular morning, I'm getting up to go to work at 12. I get a call at 10:30 like, you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to Wellstar Cobb. They have a maternal and fetal division, and you need to go see them because your amniotic fluid is low, and we are very, very concerned about it. So I called Jamila at work like, we got to go to this appointment because they're saying my amniotic fluid is there. So we go there, and at that time, we had that appointment. How was that for you? Because I remember I called you at work, and I was like, hey, we got to go. They're saying my amniotic fluid is low.
So did I come pick you up or we met there?
We met there.
So we're waiting. This was a long wait. And we finally get in, and we have this ultrasound tech, and this is one of the longest ultrasounds, even longer than the one before. And
I absolutely love this ultrasound tech. Like now, like she was the bomb. Go ahead. If she watches this, hey.
So for that one, for me personally, I understand that ultrasound techs can't say much. So we've had good ultrasound techs, and we've had ultrasound techs that were really about the business. And I think for me, I was paying attention to their face, and I'll be paying attention to the things that they say. So they were asking Sequina, oh, are you drinking a lot of water?
Or like,
all that commentary, you got me on pins and needles now.
Or like, is this IUI? Did you conceive through IVF?
And I think Sequina, after that 2-hour ultrasound, Sequina had gone to the bathroom, and she asked me, she was like, oh, she's in the bathroom? And she was like, yeah. And she said, okay. And then when Sequina came back out, she kind of like pulled her to the side, and she was like, well, how did you get pregnant? And that pissed me off because that was a question that I could answer. And there was a lot of back and forth with, was this an IUI? How did Sequina get pregnant? How do we know the due date? And that would be pissing me off with them, with that they kept asking, how do we know the due date? We know the due date because we were told by our OBGYN based upon Sequina's last cycle.
And then we also, because it was a planned pregnancy, I knew the dates that we tried to conceive when the egg could have potentially met the sperm.
But to me, if we're at a point in technology where you can't look at my child and know how old they are, or you're guessing, then are these the same questions you ask when a man and woman get pregnant? Because when they get pregnant, they for sure have no idea. Like, this was planned, and we know the day to the T that that Harper was conceived. When it's a man and woman, that's just guess. Would you do the same thing with them? So it was that treatment that day I was just pissed, and anyone could have got it that day.
So after that ultrasound, as Jamila mentioned, she couldn't say much, which is typical ultrasound. People can't give you any medical advice or make any assumptions. So after that, we went and sat with the doctor, and the doctor was basically what we needed at the time. He was very straight to the point,
very medical, dry,
straight shooter. Like he was like, your amniotic fluid is low, your baby looks small, and we have some questions about her heart.
And he said, and then, so Sequina asked, and I'll never forget it, she asked, well, what was the exact wording?
What is her survival rate?
Yeah, what is the survival rate? And he kind of paused, and he said, at this point, we don't know.
And, that was the hardest time. Like, even thinking about it right now, like, makes me emotional. Like, they immediately put me on bed rest. They took me out of work, and I had to drink juice and water like nonstop. So we did that, and then he scheduled a follow-up with us for 2 weeks. So thinking about it now, although I was very emotional, if it was very severe, I guess they would have admitted me in the hospital. So I guess there was room for hope there. So after that, I think Jamila and I cried our eyes out. We sat in potentially what was going to be Harper's room at that time, which is her new room, sorry. And I was in a recliner, Jamila was just sitting at the desk, and we were just like quiet, talking. Then we ended up laying on the floor that night in there.
We were getting the house painted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were laying on the floor in there and just off and on crying, just thinking, because we just didn't know. If a doctor tells you they don't know the survival rate, like what do you have to live off of? Of course, you pray to God, which we did, and we had hope. My mom ended up coming down for a week during the 2 week to make it to that appointment. So Jamila had a lot of assistance with me having to be on straight bed rest. Like
I think I worked from home for a week, and then your mom came the following week.
So I was only like able to get up for like an hour, and that was just basically to do things like bathe or.
And they said that with Sequina laying down.
Right, it was a better chance for me to get my fluids right so that I'm not losing fluids by moving around doing extra activities. So that was that. We went back in 2 weeks. We got the nurse practitioner, bubbly, personable. She made us so happy. She was like, you know, you jumped from like the first percentile to the 7th. Your amniotic fluid is looking good. So that worked. We were like, perfect. But they were like, still, we want you to come back in 2 weeks because your baby is small.
And still on bed rest.
And still on bed rest. So go back in 2 weeks. And then the constant question was that Harper was small. Harper was always registering about, so when I was like 18 weeks, she was showing the growth of like 16 weeks and 7 days. So she was always like a true week behind in growth. So that continued out until, so this is October, November.
With her going every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Come December, Harper, you know, the love of my life that I know now, she loves to move these arms. Guess what? She wrapped the umbilical cord around her neck 3 times. So by then, the doctors were threatening us to possibly have an early birth within the 3rd trimester. They just wanted us to get to 20 something. It was like 28 weeks. They wanted us to get to 28 weeks.
And then by then we had met Dr. Dreamy. McDreamy.
So she called him Dr. McDreamy. So, you know, he was like, you know, she has the umbilical cord around her neck. She didn't seem compromised by it too much. She was still gaining weight and she was still moving around. So they just were like, let's do it weekly. We're not going to put you in the hospital, but we're going to get you weekly 2 times a week.
Because one of the other doctors, because what was going on is that we were going to a specialist, but they had 3 doctors there and 2 nurse practitioners, 2 or 3 nurse practitioners. So we, the first doctor, we were kind of iffy with him, but we know we needed his seriousness. One was like in the middle, and then the last one was really like personable, and that's who I call Dr. McDreamy. So the one who was kind of like in the middle, like kind of personal, but kind of not, he would just be funny because he'd be like, baby has umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. Baby doesn't seem to care. And we were like, okay, well, Harper's good, then Harper is good.
But we need you here every Tuesday and Friday.
So then we're up to 2 appointments a week, and then 1 with your OB.
That was 3rd trimester.
Okay.
So, well, yeah. So, I mean, basically around that time, yeah. So I was going 3 appointments a week, which was fine because guess what? I'm still on bed rest. This is the end of December, early January. So December, umbilical cord 3 times. And then January,
on our anniversary,
we go to the hospital because Harper is like, normally around this time I'm feeling constant movement. If I lay on my right side, homegirl will like, no, go back on the left.
And
I don't like it.
Counting movements every
Counting
hour.
movements. At this point, Jamila can feel them. We could see them. On our anniversary, Harper just knocked out. I mean, I don't know what I ate that day that put her in a food coma or what or something. She didn't move, so I was like super nervous. So
on our anniversary,
we ended up going to the labor and delivery emergency room over there. As soon as we get there, you put us on the monitor. You can hear Harper's heart beating. You can hear her kicking. So like we were in and out probably within an hour. So that was that. And then I had an appointment that Friday, and we get there the Friday. Jamila didn't go with me at this appointment, which I really wish she was because I was super excited. Like I almost wanted to cry. So they were like, they call it a nuchal when she has the umbilical cord. They was like, well, didn't you have a nuchal? Like I had a new ultrasound tech, so she's reading notes. And I'm like, yeah. She was like, there's no umbilical cord wrapped around her neck anymore. So I was like super happy, and you know, everybody was like, she's small but mighty. They started making nicknames for her, and they was like, she's gonna be a gymnast because she just wrapped out of that cord like it was nothing. So January we were feeling like, okay, we're gonna have our baby shower in February, but we were like, no, we're gonna move it up. And we were like praying to Harper, like, Harper, if you could do whatever, just hold on. So I think by January we were 30 something weeks. And then they had some concerns about her kidney. She has what's called a pelvic kidney. And do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so when you think of the human body and you think of how symmetrical it is, like your lungs and your kidneys, what happened in the ultrasound, and this is one thing that at first I didn't like having different techs and different doctors because you feel like you have to explain something every single time. But then what happens is that if you have different techs looking at it, sometimes they find certain things that other ones miss. So we did notice that some were better than others. So this was the one that you really liked. So she had said, has anyone ever said anything about her kidneys? And we were like, No. So of course we had been through this so many times where a text says, has anyone said anything? Has anyone said anything? So we were like, this is something else. So basically one of her kidneys, she has one right here and then one that's kind of hidden, and it's called a pelvic kidney, and we've had a follow-up, and it's something that she'll just have to deal with for the rest of her life, and it's not something that impacts anything. It's a fully functioning kidney. It's just if she ever delivers or gets cut in that area or has an ultrasound, they need to be made aware of it so they don't mistake it for a mysterious mass and try to take it out, or they don't accidentally cut it. So it's just something like how children need to know about a peanut allergy. She has to be aware that she has a pelvic kidney and always makes any doctor that's in that area informed.
Right. So that was like January. So now we're treading. They're constantly threatening, like, you know, we might have to deliver this baby early. And I forgot to mention the biggest issue I had with my pregnancy. I had fibroids. That was one of the major reasons. Like, Harper's head would be right here and the fibroid would be like right over her. So in all the ultrasounds. So that was another reason that was compromising her growth. So we had low amniotic fluid, fibroids, kidney, baby small, and then
they start bringing up her heart.
So then umbilical cord, and then the sixth issue, they started to have concerns about her heart.
Which the first doctor who saw it said it. He said, I can't get a good glimpse on what's going on with her heart. And we didn't hear about the heart thing for weeks and months.
Probably not until end of January, after baby shower. And so they sent me to what is it called, Children's Hospital, to do an ultrasound on the heart. And, you know, he gave us a bunch of scenarios. Like, I seen red that whole appointment.
She wasn't listening to
I was so mad. Like, I was so mad. I was hurt. Because I just was like, oh, my God. Like,
so they did an ultrasound on her actual heart. And what they were concerned is that what happens is that in an infant, in an embryo, in a baby, when they're inside your belly, they don't breathe with air, obviously. Like, our heart works and lungs work completely different than a baby does in utero. So their lungs are filled with fluid and their heart actually has different valves. What they were concerned about is one of the valves that should open up once she is born. They were concerned is that it was narrow. And that if it was narrow, then you can't have the fluid go in and out of it, because we know oxygen, you know, goes in and out of your heart, whatever. So they were concerned about that, and they thought that she would have some type of syndrome related to this heart issue. So they were thinking because of the pelvic kidney and because of this potential narrowing of the heart or the tube of the aorta of that this was a related syndrome. And Sequina was not, she like didn't have any questions, she didn't say anything, he was just talking, and
it was this point that I was mad. I was like hurt, but I was just mad that that my child was going through this, because he mentioned her having surgery, like open heart surgery, and then he mentioned that like it would be immediately. So like I would be in the hospital, not there. Jamila would have to go. So it was just so much that I was thinking. So I mean, I cried the biggest cry of my life that day. Like,
and we went to, and the thing is, okay, so we're being tough, of course, we're trying to be tough. We had our OB appointment right after that. When we tell our OB doctor, who's usually the most upbeat, most nonchalant doctor, what they said, and she starts crying.
It was that tough. Like, just thinking about it, like we cried in there, she hugged us, and you know, you're thinking like, she's just like, I'm sorry that you guys are going through this, because you guys have been really, really strong. And you know, at this point, we're like, yeah, we have. Like, it's just nonstop. And it just to like, okay, get off that subject. It didn't stop there. I end up developing preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure. So lo and behold, I go to a maternal fetal appointment. They admit me to the hospital. I'm in the hospital for a couple of days.
And this is, of course, every appointment I wasn't at. It was just something. This is when I'm at work, and she's like, okay, I'm being admitted to the hospital. And so then I met her there.
So I got admitted to the hospital. My fluid was low, and my blood pressure was high. Stayed there for about 4 days. They let me go. Go back a week later. Blood pressure's high. My feet are swollen. My eyes are swollen. They're like, hey, you have preeclampsia, you have to have this baby. At this point, I had already did the first hospital stay that I was like, I'm not leaving this hospital until I have a baby. I can't go through the IVs and just going through all this without coming home without a baby. So that was like the last trial. They were like, okay, we're gonna try to induce you. They tried to induce me so I could have a natural birth. Every time I would have a contraction, Harper's heart rate would drop. So they were like, It came in and was like, talk to your doctor. I was sleeping through the contraction. I guess it was more
this
like
is the middle of the night.
Braxton Hicks for me, because I wasn't feeling them. I would feel some, but I wasn't really feeling. I was able to sleep through it. So then the doctor comes back and is like, hey, her heart rate is dropping. We called your OB. She's on the way. They called it, you're getting ready to have a C-section. So well, they said you're going to have a C-section. They didn't say you're getting ready to have a C-section. This was probably like 4 in the morning.
And this is a nurse. Okay, so we had gotten familiar with a lot of the nurses from our previous stay. So when we saw this one particular nurse, we were so excited to see her because she was just so awesome. And she had gotten really comfortable with her and us with
we spoke that in existence. I was like, I wish, her name was Mercedes. I was like, I wish Mercedes was here to help deliver. Who comes through the door?
So
Mercedes.
4 o'clock in the morning, she's like, she had already checked in on us a couple of times and woke us up, whatever, and to tell us what was going on, and we'd be like, yeah, okay, and then fall back to sleep. She comes in with 5, 6, 7 nurses, turn on the lights. Okay, they called it, and we're like,
wait, we're like, what?
What do you mean called what?
And then this lady, like, they look at my gown, like, oh, yep, we need to shave her.
Oh my goodness! So the lady, she pulls up Sequina's gown and then pulls her. What were you wearing? Were you wearing any drawers or anything?
I don't think so.
She just pulls it up and she just ticks. She's like, all right, get the razor, and then you hear
it's like a loud electric one too. So key note: if you got to have a baby, shave your own stuff, because that was horrible.
She had asked me to shave her before.
Right, too. It was horrible. Like, they were too rough. Like, I had scars, like little scrapes from that. So if you can shave or your partner can do it for you, do it. So, all right, let's speed the story up a little bit now. So I had emergency C-section. They give Jamila her little gown. So mad that she didn't take any pictures.
So I had, the gown was like a shirt, pants, shoes, and a little, like,
scrub. So she was like in scrub attire.
Like Grey's Anatomy, because y'all know I'm a doctor.
So, they're asking me like a couple questions, and then they asked me if I'm going to take this. I didn't have to take an epidural. They gave me something which is called a spinal. This is not as strong as the epidural.
And so the anesthesiologist, he was pretty funny. So he was like looking at Sequina. He's talking to her and telling her about what's going to happen. And he's looking at her. And even our whole hospital experience, people would always just come in, like nurses and doctors, and really question who we were to each other. So he's like, again, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He's looking at her, and then he looks at me, and he's like, whoa, are y'all sisters? Y'all look just alike. And I was like, no, that's my wife, but anything you feed enough starts looking like you. Because that's what my mom has always said about me, that I look like her because she fed me my whole life. So he kind of laughs, and then he takes a beat, and he's like, yeah, I guess, I kind of look like my wife too. And I was like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Sir, let's talk about
what's going on. So,
right.
Mercedes, like, she's being awesome. She's calming me down, and she's like, okay, so we're waiting on Dr. Hudson, and we're going to wheel you to the back. And so I get to the back. They wouldn't let Jamila in. So basically, I'm like sitting like this, facing you guys. Mercedes is in front of me, kind of like holding me for support because I'm about to get the spinal. So she's just like holding me. It is so cold in there. So it wasn't even that I was scared that I was about to get injected in my back. I couldn't stop shivering because I was so cold. So she was trying to make me like calm myself down so that way I didn't like mess up what he needed to do on his part. And he was like, okay, I'm going in. As soon as we inject you with the spinal, you're going to feel warm, tingly, bow. It happened immediately. I was numb from the waist down. They lay me down. Then they put the little sheet barrier up. And then, Dr. Hudson comes over, past me and says, you're going to be all right. You've been so strong this far. And I absolutely love Dr. Hudson. So then they let Jamila come in.
Okay, so then I'm gonna tell you about my experiences leading up to the point that they let me come in. So I'm texting everyone. So Sequina's parents were already here and they were staying at the house. So I let them know, hey, Harper's on the way, basically. So they're like, okay, we're coming. And so then I'm guessing they're on their way. And I'm texting everyone. Well, not everyone, but our friends and family, immediate family that we wanted to know, like my mom, everyone. So texting. So I'm sitting outside the room, and basically like the doctor's going in, the anesthesiologist, the nurses, no one's saying anything to me, and I'm really just sitting down, and I just have a camera in both of our phones, and I'm all scrubbed out. And then Dr. Hudson comes, and Dr. Hudson, I have never thought Dr. Hudson liked me, and not that she disliked me, I just was worried that because I wasn't at the OB appointments, I was at the maternal and fetal appointments. OB appointments, fully appreciative, but those long ultrasounds, talking to the specialist, those I would try to go to those. So I was worried that she thought that Sequina was like a single mother. So anyway, so she comes out after talking to Sequina, and she comes out to talk to me, and she sits a little further away from me, and we're like in the back of the rooms, and she sits down. And she kind of starts talking, and then that's when I figured, hey, she's kind of talking to me, because we weren't making eye contact. I could barely see her. And then she didn't say little girl, but it sounded like, hey, look, little girl. She said, when she has this baby, you're going to have one shot to take a picture of her. She was like, because what they're going to do is they're going to get this baby, and they're going to wrap her up, and if you don't get a good picture, she's going to look like a burrito. And she's not going to see her for the rest of the day. And I said, so Harper will be going to the NICU? And she said, yes. And she said, and you'll have one shot, because that picture is all she's going to have. And I was thinking like, oh my God, so not only is Sequina cut open in this room, I am like between her and having the only picture she's going to have of Harper. When I tell you, I was shook. I was shook, one, because Dr. Hudson had really never ever spoken to me, but number two, like she had told me what I needed to do. So finally they tell me, hey, come on in. And so then, Sequina's open, and they have the sheet up or whatever up, and I don't look at anything. Like, I don't even give my chance to fall out or faint or anything. And they tell me basically, sit down in this little chair and don't move. And so then I see Sequina, and I figured, she was doped up, because then she's like, hey, babe. What did you say? I think not this time. I think you said,
with the glasses?
You said, can you push my glasses down? I was like
on my face, because it was like off, and they had my arm strapped down. Or no, they said they weren't going to have my arm strapped down, but
you're like this.
They didn't want me to move, because they didn't feel like I was going to move. I think the nurses were just making sure I didn't move my arm.
I would have been like, strap me down. I can't make no promises. So she asked me to push her glasses down. I'm like, well, Sequina, I don't think I can touch you right now. And so then the anesthesiologist wasn't there. He was standing aside, but he had someone who was assisting him, and she was really sweet, talking to you and rubbing.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
I thought you said you remember her talking to you.
I thought that was Mercedes.
No, Mercedes was not by you.
That was somebody that had on glasses?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we weren't even in there maybe an hour. And so they did have like one of those mirrors in the corner, like one of the big round ones, that I remember looking up and then looking back, because I was like, I do not want to see.
You didn't see anything?
I didn't want to see any organs, any body parts. I remember.
Why did you see that?
All I remember is, because have you guys ever watched people get lipo, and like how like rough they are? I do remember like a movement like this, and I don't know what was going on, and I wasn't gonna ask no questions, but I do remember that. So then next thing I